Jim, we did talk to at the end of the week last week, yourself, James, as well in studio, and you were gassing up, you were gearing up, you were ready to head out to New Hampshire to check out what the fanfare was like this year. And we spoke to you in the past when you were down there. You didn't have to deal with too much weather, hopefully, but I'm sure you have some stories. So, and you brought some guests. So, welcome back in studio, and we're going to learn all about what you found, what you learned, who you talked to as well.
Trump.
Yes, planned on that.
Yeah, we had to do that. I lost my voice after the whole weekend, but we had a great weekend. The Central New Yorkers for Trump. Our group has got together. We said we were going to support Trump this year in not only New York, but we were going to help in other states and of course, first in the nation. New Hampshire, we put together a team and we went down and volunteered the whole weekend long. Unfortunate thing, a sad story. I have to tell it, unfortunately.
Who did you leave behind by accident?
No, we didn't leave anybody behind. We just missed President Trump by 2 hours. We had left Sunday afternoon thinking, okay, we're all set. You know, he was busy doing whatever. He showed up to the headquarters. Oh. So we missed him by 2 hours. But we just had a wonderful trip. I'm going to let some of the others, because you've heard from me enough, but it really was a great trip. We met a lot of great people, a lot of great stories. So I'm going to pass it on because they have a lot of great stories. I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So, good morning and welcome. You're part of Jim Zecca and Friends.
Yeah. Good morning. I am Tina Hemming. I actually my company that I work for is out of New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
So I had been there since Sunday.
Okay.
So I worked most of the week and then was able to help the Trump campaign on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday.
So do you go back and forth like throughout the year or something? Or?
Once a quarter.
Oh, okay. So and this was the time, huh?
Yeah, I cover New York State and sales for them. So we had a meeting and it just kind of worked out at the right time.
Is this your first experience the primary there in New Hampshire?
Yes. Yeah. My husband's whole family lives there. Mm-hmm. So New Hampshire I love. We're there quite a bit. So it was exciting to be able to go there. And we met so many wonderful people they had people coming from Iowa to help, Pennsylvania, South Carolina. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to be around like-minded folks who just want America first, who want our country back to really our commander-in-chief who works for the people.
Mm-hmm. So actually, what do you do? So you say you go out there to help, but what do you actually physically do to help?
When we were there, so on Thursday when I got there, they hooked me up with their phone app. So I made phone calls for about 4 hours, and just basically you introduce yourself, you ask who they are, you ask if they're going to support who they're going to support for president, and then we put it in a survey app for them. The next day, we put signs together for them. We put them out. I did not door knock. I intended to door knock, but it was really, really cold. So we didn't door knock. I actually waited in line, though, 3.5 hours. One of the nights that President Trump spoke in Concord, and I was absolutely frozen. And I just kept saying to myself, I can do this. He's done so much for our country. I can't give up now. And we made it in. We got really, really close to him.
So there's like an organized group that you kind of work with, and they say, hey, here's where we need help, and here's
and they direct it. They have an amazing team out there, and
the rally we volunteered in.
So on Saturday, we actually were able to volunteer, and we got to the important people, I guess, if you will, or whatever they considered the VIP. We got to walk them down into their seats, so that was fun. Rudy Giuliani was right in front of us.
Did you ever get his attention?
A little bit. Turned around and looked, and you got a picture,
he was.
But it was
signing a lot of hats and signs, and people went crazy for him. Matt Gaetz was also there. He worked the crowd really well. He went up and down the bleachers. And there were 6,500 of us that were let in. It could have fit 9,500. The lines were so long, they turned so many people away, and I felt horrible because it was so cold and they had stood in line. But the fire department said they were nervous over security issues, so they turned thousands of people away. But it was a packed house.
But they still had room that could have filled the rest of the area. Yeah.
We had the opportunity. Mark's brother lives in New Hampshire. We had the chance to speak to him.
Oh, you heard it? Yeah.
And so he talked a little bit about the neighborhoods and the communities. They're kind of the smaller communities, but it ramps up during this time. And he said it's just kind of it's kind of odd in the sense that you get these candidates coming in and there's these parties. Did you get any of that? Did you have the feeling of did you get to go to some of the houses and residents?
He was a legislator, remember?
Oh, right, yeah, that's right.
He can talk about his experience. We talked to one of the legislators. You want to talk about that story?
Yeah, Jim Hercheck. I know, Jim, you were in last week as you were getting
just
ready.
real quick.
Yeah.
I went to college in New Hampshire, lived there for about 10 years, and got elected while I was in college to 2 terms there. And it was like old home week for me, getting together with people again. And New Hampshire's the first in the nation primary. It's one of a kind. We can kind of... Hopefully you hear it in our voices, how exciting it could be. But you get all sorts of people who come out. There were 16 candidates on the Democrat ballot, and I think about 16 candidates on the Republican ballot, too. Although there's only 2 consequential ones.
So they made $32,000 from what we heard. It's $1,000 to get on the ballot.
Yeah. But a lot of them are kooks. But some of them were like small town and insurance business people who just want to become famous back at their hometown, saying that they ran for president.
Well, on the Democratic line, and Mark, hold on a second. On the Democratic line, Biden's not on it, so could potentially one of the Democrats win the New Hampshire presidential primary?
He was sitting next to one.
I don't know if you remember Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
She's run before, and she's kind of one of these new age gurus,
New age, yes.
love everybody, rainbows and unicorns type stuff. And she sat down at our table at this diner, to talk to us and said, well, we can't help you because we're Republicans, but we'll tell everybody to vote for you instead of writing Biden in because, he really just disrespected the people of New Hampshire by pulling him.
I'm curious about this. You said you were on the legislature. You get $100 a year, right? For being in the legislature.
Yeah.
They went up a little bit.
How often do you meet? At New York, it's supposed to be part time, but they're there all the time. They have big staff. Do you have any staff? And how often do you meet?
Well, if you're in the leadership, you have staff there. But no,
run-of-the-mill legislator like you, or you don't have staff?
Yeah, but you work about 6 months in the first year. It's supposed to be 90 days, but it gets extended. The second year, it's usually maybe you'll have some committee days that you need to be up there. But every now and then, if they can't get a budget passed, they'll have a special session. And maybe you work 6 months.
Not every day, though.
Not every day. Right.
And you have no staff?
No staff. Yeah.
No staff?
No, it's a citizen legislator position. It's the way, it'd be nice if the rest of the government were like this and not, all the professional politicians you get. But it was a fun trip, and, we saw a lot of kooky people. We saw a lot of really good people, heard some great stories from veterans and people that are just really doing good things, and people who just really love Donald Trump.
James,
and there was no extremists. I'm going to tell you, these people were real. The real people of New Hampshire. Jacob, you talked to a number of people. I know you like to talk to folks like I do, but you want to just give a few experiences that you had when you talked to some of the folks?
Basically, I was just going around talking to pretty much most of the politicians, like the sheriff that came down there that was representing, as well as also, we met Vermin Supreme, which
I think outside the headquarters.
I think Zecca got choked.
He choked.
He had his hands around me.
See, WWE.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wrestled him.
Well, he was trying to win him over. He wanted his vote. So
I said, "You got to beat Biden. Don't worry about Mr. Trump. You got to beat Biden." Yeah. We said the same thing to Marianne, too.
What I do, because I've been to New Hampshire, and it's a lovely state. It's small, and everyone's, just like Iowa, everyone's kind of flying in. There's a frenzy there for all the candidates. There weren't that many candidates, I guess, as far as the presidential ones compared to other years. But when you're there, you have Nikki Haley supporters and Trump supporters. and you're all kind of trying to vie for the same votes. How often you guys all, as like an army, cross each other's paths, or like you just talk, or you try to get to one person first and before the Haley support or the Haley volunteer? Does it ever get a little jumbled where you guys are kind of competing for each other's people you want to talk to?
Who's Nikki Haley?
Well,
I didn't feel that there was really any competition there. I mean, even she was having her little, I would call them a gathering. I definitely wouldn't call it a rally. And the line wasn't very long to get in. And it,
so she didn't seem to have a lot of energy and presence on the ground there.
No, and a lot of phone calls of people who actually answered, their votes were for President Trump.
When you were making the phone calls, you said you did that for 4 hours, and I'm sure when you're living in New Hampshire, you're used to this, but did you get the impression that most of the people you talk to enjoy the attention or are just over all of this?
Yeah, some of them, would hang up on you.
Yeah.
Some answer your questions and are really excited and happy to answer them. And then, I did have a couple of them say they didn't want to tell me over the phone who they wanted to vote for. And they just said, we're going to vote the right way. And I said, fair enough, thank you for your time.
Did you say, well, if you whisper, no one will hear?
It's so for the paranoia people have, right? So,
right.
Whenever I'm calling and they're answering from their home, that's their space. So I definitely want to respect that. And even if you told me you were voting for somebody else, I wouldn't, take that negatively. I would just say, and thank you for your honesty, and, hang up.
Yeah, you don't say, what's the matter with you? So, Jim,
the people of New Hampshire, I got to say, because I did live there myself, they're very proud of the fact that they're first in the nation. And they're really, really insulted. A lot of people were insulted that President Biden and the Democrats did what they did to their state. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those numbers tonight in the Democratic line. And again, they have a slew of candidates on that line. So, and we saw some of the folks making the effort to do write-ins with signs and such. But,
Jim, I don't know if you know this. You live there. Maybe the other Jim would know. But does New Hampshire tend to be a state where most of the people work, as opposed to having this contingent of people who are on public assistance or on, the government? Where
I would
most
say
of the people
yes.
in
It's
that
very
state,
similar to really central New York and upstate New York.
but they don't have
they
don't have a very good, I will say, public assistance or welfare system, as I understand it. No. It's very minimal.
When I lived there, it was down at the town level, like it used to be here years ago. So they put people again to work. And actually, Jimmy knows because he was.
People cannot just sit home and just take money from the government to survive.
No, New Hampshire's not a welfare state. They have no sales tax, no income tax. It's a very bare bones budget, and even the Democrats who run for office in New Hampshire take the pledge, and that's not to raise taxes. They call it the pledge. No sales tax, no income tax. Yeah. And, there's a lot of retirees in New Hampshire, on Social Security, but not a lot of welfare.
No. Not a lot, no.
And, a lot of the people, like I say, they're good people, solid people. There's when they keep talking about extremists supporting Trump, no way in hell. When you talk to these people, they're average folks that want their country back. That's what we kept hearing over and over and over again. And a lot of folks, which really surprised me, came up from Massachusetts in groups to help as well. It wasn't only other, the state of New Hampshire.
Now, we'll take a break. When we get back, you can talk a little bit about Elise Stefanik. I know you had some time with her.
That was a great visit.
But before we go, there's a big talk about the independents, what influence they're going to have. They're more moderates. They're not, and I know you're Republican, and you might have been focusing on Republicans. But did you give any attention to independents? Did you cross their paths at all? How does that factor into everything you were doing?
The calling list, when you made the call, it would pop up the person's name, the address, their age, and their affiliation. And my calls, a lot of them were the unaffiliated that I called. And we didn't get a lot of people on the line. In New Hampshire, it's a little different, the law. Because of all these calls and the attention they get, you can't do robocalls in New Hampshire. It's illegal. You have to give live. So we have to give the message. It's not an automatic message that's left with the voter. We have to convince the voter. and leave a message personally.
Now,
So
do
it's different.
you know why Trump made a point? I'm not sure if it was at the rally you were at or if he was commenting recently, but he said it's a weak governor who lets Democrats vote in a primary. He goes, Democrats shouldn't be allowed to vote in a Republican primary. We all know that. So do you have any understanding why they do allow people to become independent or undeclared and get involved in one primary or the other?
Live free or die. That's the state, and they mean it. When they say that, they want people to vote, and they want people to be involved and engaged. There are more independents registered in the state of New Hampshire than there are Democrats or Republicans. And the reason is they get an opportunity to vote in either the Republican primary or the Democrat primary, in the primary.
Yeah.
The Democrats or the Republicans can switch, but they have a time period like we have in New York.
September,
but it's
I think.
close. It's October.
It's October.
So, but we can do the same thing in New York.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just a different time frame. It's not so easy to do.
But if you're undeclared, you can't vote in a specific primary in New York State.
Right, we're not.
Right.
We're not
There-
an open
there,
or
I think-
semi-open. I call it a semi-open primary. Where,
But I do think it's a good premise where if you have a big moderate vote, maybe there you don't want to affiliate with a party, and you look
Right.
at your Republican maybe generally, and you see there's a Democrat I like better.
Right.
For whatever reason, you should be able to vote in that primary if
and
you want. I
that's
agree
the
with
live
that.
free or
Right.
die state. That's what they believe in. And
You
I
think
got to
that-
give them
you
credit.
think
There are
that-
other states like that. New York is very rigid in
Right.
their
You
voting.
think New
we all
Hampshire
know that. We
could
deal with it. Yeah.
could become contagious?
What's that?
I think New Hampshire could become contagious. I'm sure.
I hope
there are
so.
a lot of
I would
people
love it. Yeah.
listening and say,
They're-
"This some of
they're
these."
great. Now
Maybe
they
we
have
can
two
move into
problems,
New
serious
York a little
problems.
bit.
The fentanyl problem is huge. People are there's young people dying. I guess they have the highest number. The veterans. Yeah. Talk about the veterans because you're a veteran. You should talk about that issue.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many great people, but there was this one guy, and he was in Trump headquarters the whole time, making telephone calls, and I was sitting down next to him, and then we got to know each other after a while. And this guy is a veteran. He joined the United States Marine Corps when he was 18 years old, and then he served his initial term, but then went into the Army Reserve, went to college, and he got back in and became a commissioned officer. He ended up in Iraq, and he had some. Wow. He got blown up, but he survived it, and he stayed on active duty, and he actually served as one of the division officers in the Abu Ghraib. Well, not the Abu Ghraib prison, but the prison that Saddam Hussein was in before he was hung.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually a witness to that. And Saddam Hussein had left him his prison-issued Quran there, and he pulled this out of a bag and wanted to show it to me. And he said that there was Arabic writing in there, and they said it was actually mentioning where hoards of gold were stored. But Army intelligence had reviewed that, and it was all gone. But this guy was a witness to that, and somehow developed a personal relationship with Saddam Hussein before his final demise there. But just a great guy.
Wow.
And he was having all these problems with the Veterans Administration.
President Trump's.
Right, because of he had gotten blown up and had some brain injuries and stuff like this, and and that's why he's such a devoted fan and loves Donald Trump is because it took Trump to get in there and get the Veterans Administration turned around for him to get the care that he needed. So that's just one small
And
story.
at the rally, he promised about the Veterans Hospital.
Right.
We'll let them know.
Well, you can go finish. Yeah.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Again, he was for the veterans right from the beginning, and he's going to continue. He said in the rally in Manchester that he was going to make sure the state of New Hampshire gets a veteran hospital once and for all. They don't have the state of New Hampshire, with over 1 million people now, there are over 1 million people, do not have their own veterans hospital. He said that's appalling, and they will have it by the end of his administration.
And a higher percentage of veterans than a lot of states.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Very, very patriotic state. The live free or die state.
Any one of you four that are here, if Trump gets convicted of one or more felonies, Would any of you change your support for him? Would that have any impact on your support for him at all?
You know, it's funny. I was interviewed by Shannon, was it Bream? And she asked me the same question. She tried to get me to waver. I will never give up on President Donald Trump. He's never given up on the American people. He's never given up on me or my family. He has my 100% support. This is a witch hunt. And if he gets convicted, our Supreme Court and everybody else isn't doing their job. And we, as Americans, should watch out because they're coming for us next.
You all four of you feel the same way. No matter what happens, you're going to continue to support him.
Yeah. Jake, yep.
You don't care what happens to him.
Do you think, when you're going door to door and encountering people in New Hampshire, did you, I don't know what types of conversation you have, but what was the sense if the issue of these convictions, indictments, or charges were brought up, did that make people want to support Trump even more?
Correct. I don't know if you guys have been watching some of the news, but it's funny because at the, I think it was the Laconia, New Hampshire one, there was a few news outlets that were on, and that's exactly what the questions were. And most of those people said, it's making me want to support him more.
Yeah.
Tina, you were on Fox?
I was, yes. I had my Trump girl hat on.
So you're on Fox, and so they saw the team here or the rally out, and they approached you to get a comment?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I kind of think she may have. I had a Trump girl hat on. I think it was more of a girl thing. I think that's where she was going. What I felt was support.
Supporter?
Yeah.
Did it say Trump girl, or was it a pink Trump hat?
No, it was a jean jacket looking one with the flag on the brim, and then it said Trump girl right on top.
Oh, all
and
right.
rhinestones.
Yeah.
Talk about the diner.
Oh yeah. So the diner,
The diner now.
I was actually starting a lot of trouble at the Red Arrow over there, basically. So, yeah, I kept basically egging on and getting politicians to basically sit down and talk. Actually, I'm kind of the fault for Mary Ann sitting next to Jimmy.
Yeah. Thank you, Jake.
He was really appreciative for that.
But some of the other media outlets that we were interviewed by, Japan, France. You were interviewed by a French correspondent?
That's right.
Oh yeah.
I was New York Times as well.
New York, yeah. So
Yep.
we're all over the place.
And then what was it there? There was another one we got interviewed by too.
Japan.
Well, no, not Japan. There was another one too. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but we've had a lot of.
What did the Japanese want to know about you guys?
But basically the same things that you guys have been asking. They were asking the same questions, and they understand that. Go ahead, Jim. You talked to it quite a bit.
The most prominent questions seem to be, well, what's up with Nikki Haley and her getting all the independent and Democrat votes?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's just kind of a fluke of the New Hampshire system. I don't think it's going to work for her. And, we'll find out tonight. It seemed to work in Dixville Notch. The 6 people who vote up in Dixville Notch, they all voted
Right.
for Nikki Haley at midnight, early this morning.
That'd be fun. I thought about this. What if Jim decided that he and made an announcement he wanted to be the 7th resident of Dixon Notch? You think that they would they'd hold a protest to try
Maybe
to
next time we need to go up and register.
There you go. But you did have the opportunity, I think, to speak with Elise Stefanik or maybe get some words. So
Yeah,
a lot
Elise
of
Stefanik,
a lot
she
of
was
conversation,
terrific.
a lot of conversation of her potentially being tapped
Vice
as the
president,
VP.
yeah.
So what was that like?
Well, we started immediately cheering when she walked in. VP.
Yeah, we were encouraging her.
And she was like a magnet right over to us. She knows us from when we worked on her campaigns here in Herkimer County, and she saw the Trump head again. So we got pictures with her, the Trump head, and she seemed to be very excited. We didn't really get a chance to personally talk to her one-on-one because it was just so busy, and everybody wanted to talk to her and take pictures with her. So,
what was her message? Did she indicate or recognize the fact that folks are getting behind her or giving her support as you were cheering as vice president? The potential she could be tapped for vice president.
She pretty much recognized that we came all the way from New York. She recognized us, and she was super appreciative. And I think she was really receptive when it came to the whole VP chant. And I don't know where her thought process on that is right now. If she thinks that she's going to be considered like in a high level for that, or if, basically if it's, a dream. But I don't know. At this point, it's very possible.
J.D. Vance was also there. He came and we got to really a lot of he had personal conversations with him, and Jacob did, and he could talk a little bit about that. But yeah, it was great, and he's another potential VP
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
from Ohio.
You're saying Tim Scott.
Yeah, Tim Scott. We didn't see Tim Scott. Well, you guys had to see Tim Scott before he had announced he was getting married. He was in New Hampshire on Friday night, then went back to South Carolina to propose to his wife to be, and then he came back to New Hampshire to support President Trump the next day. Yeah.
So there's a big
exciting
difference between a Trump Republican and a regular Republican. J.D. Vance being a Republican, as far as a Trump Republican, to talk with him, literally within hours, I'm getting a phone call back from his office. So I thought that was pretty receptive. They were really quick.
Is true. We witnessed it.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Now, Jim, before we run out of time here, I know if we could just switch gears here because this was something you brought to my attention. If you could grab the microphone. We were talking this morning about the passing of Lou Critelli.
Oh, sad.
He's a local icon here in the community for a lot of reasons, but we got to know him as a friend of the show for his efforts to try to correct this overturning of the referendum for term limits. And you're in some of the pictures there. You were by his side. I think you were out there. Were you getting petitions as well?
Yeah.
So if you just want to say a few words about Lou Critelli and his last big fight for the city of Utica.
Yeah, Lou, this is for you. You would have loved to have been here with us. I'm sure. He was a Democrat, but he supported a lot of Republicans. He's a veteran himself, and he was involved in a lot of things. He was an engineer. He served on the solid waste. That's how I got to actually know him originally, not from the term limits, back when he was involved in solid waste management. And he was on the Solid Waste Authority Board to help to develop the program here in Oneida County. So he's done a lot through his life. And then, he could have just sat back and retired, and he didn't. He got involved with this term limits issue back in the 80s originally.
That was Lou LaPola, right?
Right after Lou LaPola, right? That he said it's time for term limits. Let's get it on the ballot, and he made the effort single-handedly back then.
He said he had one woman with him. I don't know if it was his wife or.
I don't know.
He said there was one person by his side the first time, and now this time he had a whole army of you guys.
Yeah,
right?
We supported his efforts, and actually he didn't win with the petition drive as Mark said. Mark helped out in court. We went to court over it.
Yeah.
And the timing was a little bit off, unfortunately, but we tried. But his efforts put so much pressure on the Common Council that they eventually did the right thing and reversed the damage that they had already done, although the mayor got another term out of it, and so did they. But it's back to where it was originally, the people's choice, what the people voted on.
Jim, when you think about Lou Critelli back then, your private conversations, what do you think really bothered him the most about all this? What really gave him the fire in the belly to fight so hard against this?
Because
you were at the council meetings when he was he was getting loud with Judge Garamone going back and forth.
He kept pointing his finger, Judge, who are you representing, the mayor or the Common Council?
And didn't the judge say, don't question my integrity?
It got heated, let me tell you. And there are two, basically old timers that, butted heads when they were both on the Common Council. Because Judge Garamone was a councilman back then and served on the council, I think, with Lou. And Lou was the president of the Common Council for many years, too. I just think that he said he wanted the people's voice to be heard, and that really got to him, and he was so upset about that they had the gall to try to change what the people voted on, and that's what we're trying to do. We're not done with the petition drive either. We had a little delay, but we're continuing the petition drive for term limits in Oneida County. Right. We're not done.
To put it back up for a referendum?
Put it as a referendum. So we're not done with that. And in a couple of months, you'll be hearing on that again, too.
As long as we're wavering from the subject a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
On this, but you live somewhat near where that island is up. That island in the Ridgewood area that's on the road.
Oh, yeah. It's in my
it's near where you are.
But now we're way off subject.
But should and you were on the council for a long time as well, right? Common Council. Should that be allowed to happen? Should there be changes in the laws to prevent that from ever happening again, where some council person or somebody authorizes the putting up of a island in the middle of a road, which affects some people's ability to get out of their own driveway?
Mark, that
should that happen without council approval in the future? Should that be changed?
Absolutely, positively, no. And the only reason why it happened is because of the stupidity with that federal money and the rules involved with that federal money that happened. Any other time within our charter, that would never happen. Any other period of time. It only happened because of the ARPA money and the rules regarding the ARPA money.
Right.
Other than that, if that was in the budget and had to be done, there would have been public hearings because it's changing a road or it's changing a sidewalk, and it's in the charter of the city of Utica. When all of that is done, the Common Council is the only body that can make changes. The mayor can't even. He can propose, but the council makes the final decision. And on any major changes to roadways, you have to have a public hearing and public input, and then you vote on it. And that didn't happen because of this frickin' ARPA money. There was too many. It was too loosey-goosey with this ARPA money. That was a big mistake the country made with that ARPA money, and it's going to come back to bite us in the you-know-what shortly.
Yeah, it threw a lot of money our way to play with, and then everybody got a little too excited, and then it went too far.
We're going to pay for it later on.
We're paying for it now with inflation.
And grandchildren are going to pay for it. Yeah,
we're paying for it with inflation.
Right now with the inflation, absolutely, Mark. No, you're. It should have never happened, but it was. I'm telling you, it's ARPA that because of all that, and the rules all changed and allowed that to even happen.
So the rules are in effect to prevent it from happening. They just didn't.
What I would have done if I was, but the mayor didn't want to do that. He wanted control of that money. Let's face it, the mayor wanted to control who he doled out the money to certain council members, and it was a political thing. And well, let's.
I just want. That's good.
You want to talk about the event tonight?
Yeah. So, Jacob, I know you've been putting out some information. Yeah, you guys, I'll give the mic back. But, Jacob, I know you've been putting out some information and reminding folks, encouraging them that they can come out. And so your group, CNY for Trump, and again, I was teasing, a party. It's not Mark's birthday. Maybe some candles, maybe some snacks. I don't know. But you do have an event to come out and watch. So give us all the details. Who, what, where, why, and why.
So basically, we're going to be we have a headquarters set up. It's on Main Street out in New York Mills, and which...
Not open to the public, though. This is internal.
Oh, okay. And basically, so we're just going to have a little get-together, a little watch party over there, to basically just a group of friends, so to say, basically getting together and checking out and seeing what's happening so we can kind of live stream it and, I guess, be together, as we were out there. We were out there together, so why not be there to see the results of it? We invested our time and energy, went across state lines, and I just feel like it's important.
So what would be the next step for the team, for the group, as you see the results here? I think the anticipation is that Donald Trump is going to be victorious here with a large number of the supporters from New Hampshire. So what do? Do you put the boots back on? Do you get back out there? What's happening next, Jim?
There's other states.
Well, there are other states. If Haley stays in, we'll see what happens with Nikki Haley. She's talking about South Carolina already.
All right.
So, but the CNY for Trump group, we're here. We were here since 2016. We're going to rebuild. This is the core group here, and with others. So we're going to start having meetings. We have the headquarters we invested in. And Jim, you want to talk?
Is there any? Let me ask you this: is there any number that Nikki Haley could get that would make you nervous? Or if it's 51-49 and Trump has 51, are you happy with that? Or is there a number that she could get that you would say, now we're concerned that she's done better than expected?
If she gets a significant number, I think it's going to show that it's going to be the crossover in independence.
What's a significant number in your mind?
I don't know. I think Trump's going to come in with at least 55% of the vote. If he came in under less than 45, that would be alarming to me.
If he came in with less than 45,
right?
And if she comes in with more than him by any percentage at all, does it worry you? Like if it's say 51-49 in her favor.
Well, and DeSantis dropped out, but there's still going to be people that voted for him. But I think a lot of people that were going to vote for DeSantis will more than likely go to Trump. Right. But we'll find out.
But would that make you nervous if she gets?
Yeah, if he got less than 50, because everyone that we talked to, except the Dixville Notch people, it was strong, and it wasn't reserved. It was strong support for Trump all over.
I don't know if you guys saw, but the whole team from South Carolina was there in support of Donald Trump. What's that tell you about Nikki Haley? Where she was governor of her own state, she doesn't have the support, and he's winning. So to me, I hope everybody else looks at that and takes a really hard look at and brings him to the finish line. They're saying he's up about 13-14% right now, points right now. So I'm not worried.
But New Hampshire does crazy things, so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, and Central New Yorkers, if you have friends and relatives in New Hampshire, call them up. Well, I'm sure that they all know that today's election day.
Yeah,
but
we actually have
them.
some volunteers. Tina called last night. They asked us to, even from New York, we have an app that you can call into New Hampshire and say, please, folks, get out there and vote. So we're doing that now.
Well, how about Central New Yorkers outside of those in New Hampshire? How about those in Central New York? Maybe they're listening and they want to get get on the Trump train and be part of the team. How do they find out more about your group, Jim?
They could go right to our Facebook page. It's CNY4 Trump. So it's CNY4 Trump, but instead of using the word 4, use the number 4. CNY4 Trump, and then all the information's on that site.
And thanks for the reminder, Jay.
Yeah, and we'll put the link up there as well. But we thank you for sharing, your experience, your stories. And as I was just asking Jim, I know this isn't done yet, so please come back in, keep us informed.
We may go to Scranton for a big rally there. Joe Biden's hometown.
You're going to need a van or a bus or an RV or something.
A big bus for that one.
Sorry, I don't want to give you too many ideas here. I think you get in trouble. But I do want to point this out and thank you all of you for coming in today and sharing your experience again.